Hi everybody, welcome to this second part of our database normalization tutorial series. In the first video we looked at how to get an unnormalized database table into first normal form. And here it is. And we realized that to be in first normal form, we don't want any repeating fields. We want all of the data in a field to have the same data type. We want all of our cells in the database to be atomic. There's only one value per cell. And we need to identify a primary key. In this example, we determined that we can use a combination of the bus num field and the date field to act as the primary key. This is known as a composite key, where we use two or more fields to act as the primary key. If you're not sure about that concept of composite keys, just go and do some research and look at some more examples, and hopefully that will start to make sense. Now, we are just going to continue this conversation about what it means to be in first normal form, because there is another solution to this. Let's just take a look at that solution. I'm just going to insert a new record for bus number 57. Oh, right. Bus number 57 is aircon. That never changes. I don't really want to re-enter that information. And the standard, yeah, bus 57 is express. I don't really want to re-enter that information. I'm just kind of wasting memory and time by doing that. Let's leave that for the moment. However, the new route for bus number 57 is from Albert Road, who's travelling to Princess Street. And the driver is Jess. And Jess is at 123 Lockton Street. And this trip is going to happen on the 5th of March. So immediately, the issue here is I've got information that doesn't need to be entered for the new record. And I've got information that does need to be entered for the new record. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take all of those fields, that's the information that I had to enter, and I'm going to cut those fields out of this table, and I'm going to paste them into a new table. Now we'll come back to this table in a moment. Let's just go back to our original table. We can see now that this table really is just telling us about buses. It's telling us the number of the bus, the aircon status of the bus, and the standard status of the bus, and that's it. Okay, so let's just simplify this table a little bit. Give me a moment. Let's clean this up a little bit. Let's change that to 71. And it's, yes, it's aircon, and this is a charter. Okay, so let's suggest that at the moment we've got 4 buses in operation. This is now the bus table. I'm just going to rename it. I usually start my table names with TBL. So this is my bus table. Bus num looks like that's an appropriate primary key. Every bus has a unique bus number. So that's the field that makes every record unique. So let's just update that from a composite key to just a normal one field primary key. Okay, brilliant. Now let's go to our new table. This is our second table now in the database. I'm going to call this table trips. This is our bus trip table. It's almost complete. The missing thing is, well, every trip needs a route, a driver, and a date, right? We also need a bus. We don't have a bus at the moment. So let's insert a column. All we need here is the bus number. That's all we need. Okay? So again, I'm just going to simplify this table just to make things a little bit easier to to work with. So let's say that bus number 57 does that one. Bus number 71 does that one. Bus number... what were the other bus numbers? 34 and 61. Bus number 34 does that one. 61 does that one. And let's say 57 does that trip. Okay? Now, when I want to enter a new record, let's say that bus number 34 goes from Queensferry to the rig, and Jack Lake is the driver, and this is going to happen on the 7th of March. Notice that we didn't have to enter the bus's aircon status. Because we know the bus number, we can somehow retrieve the aircon status and the standard from this table. We're kind of creating a relational database. Okay, so this primary key, I'll tell you what I'm going to do as well. I'm going to underline primary keys. You'll see this in the database table. Just going to underline anything that's a primary key. This primary key is being used in another table. There it is. This is a foreign key. And sometimes you'll see foreign keys in a database table followed by an asterisk. That's saying, hey, I'm a primary key in another table, and I'm being used in this table. This is a foreign key. Now remember, we are trying to normalize a database from unnormalized to first normal form. And one of the rules of first normal form is that every database table in the database needs a primary key. Now at the moment, although we know this is a foreign key, we actually haven't identified a primary key for this table. I'm just going to update that because that looks a bit rubbish. They were happening on the 7th. We haven't identified a primary key for this table, and it can't be the foreign key because we've got repeating data there, those 57s. Yeah, we're in a situation where we're going to have to identify a primary key. Let's go back to the idea that a bus can only take one trip per day. So let's go back to our composite key friend and say, okay, the primary key, let's just underline for primary key status, is going to be a combination of bus num and date. That's our composite primary key, and we also know that in this table there is a foreign key, and remember, a foreign key is a primary key somewhere else in the database design. So now we have a database which is in first normal form, but this version has two entities. There are two entities in this database. An entity really just means table. There are now two tables in our database, and both of them have been normalized to first normal form.